Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning, happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Camp Mulgat. And we're joined by Tracy Gray, the candidate for the Conservative Party in the upcoming federal election. Thanks for coming in.
Of course, Kent.
So you've been through this nomination process. Maybe I shouldn't say bitterly fought, but you were in tough there against Renee Wasilic for this nomination. How does it feel to have come through that victorious?
Well, the great thing with having a really healthy nomination is that it really does force you to get out in the community a lot. And so democracy played out. We had a really healthy, really rigorous nomination, and the membership have come out to vote, and I'm very honored to have become their candidate.
So your recipe for success, it seems, was your effort to get out there and meet people face to face, knocking or ringing doorbells in every neighborhood you could get to, right? How many doors did you knock on?
Well, about 15,000 residences and over 2,000 businesses. So I was door knocking businesses as well. But that was in addition to doing all of the, smaller meet and greets and going to seniors' homes and going into being invited into businesses, business networking groups. So that was in addition to doing all those other things. But, also when you live and work in a community for 30 years, you get to know a lot of people, and it's a matter of reaching out, and people get to know you. Of course, being on city council, it really does expose you to a wide range of different community groups and different types of people in the community. So it's a matter of reaching out to everyone.
Right, so a couple of things notable. After you won that, normally the person on the losing side of a nomination like that would very quickly say, hey, it's been a rigorous campaign here for this nomination. Let's all get behind the other person. We didn't really see that in the beginning from Renee Wasilic. Have you been in communication with her since? And how are you going to reach out to the people that supported her?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, everybody deals with situations differently, but we have connected, and we're going to be getting together over the next couple of weeks. Our schedules just haven't jived, so that's really positive. And I reached out to a number of people that were really actively involved in her campaign, and a number of them have come on board. They've now joined our electoral district or are working on our campaign. So it's all been really, really positive, and we're all on the same team. So it's a matter of unifying everybody and knowing that we're all going forward together.
So maybe that's taken a little longer, but yeah, I've seen these nominations before where sometimes it's really bitter, but you just have to eventually say, hey, we're all with the same party, right? So
and there's some people that may never, that may never, and that's fine, and they'll still go out to vote, but they may not be actively involved in the campaign, and that's okay too.
So, in that nomination process, it's such a numbers game, and I think going door to door is probably a pretty wise way to go. But do you employ the same strategy in the general election? Are your volunteers having to get back out with you and go to every neighborhood all over again?
Well, we've already started back door knocking, so I've been out already. We had a Super Saturday last Saturday, and I've been out, one-on-one with some smaller groups, and so it's a matter of getting out there and connecting. And of course, there's some neighborhoods that we didn't get to, during the nomination. So now we're going out to those neighborhoods, and it's just a great way to connect with people. So by the time the election happens this fall, I would have door knocked for an entire year.
What's your strategy when someone opens the door and there you are? Some people are going to be dyed-in-the-wool liberals or something. They're never going to support you. Some are already with you. And then I guess most importantly are those ones that could go either way. And just tell me how the conversation generally goes.
Well, I think that, what we find is that there are people that have been party people from all parties their whole life. And it doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter who's running, doesn't matter who their leader is, doesn't matter the policies, that's just always how they vote. So there is that segment there. And then there are other people that do take into consideration who their local candidates are, what the policies of the parties are, and who the leadership is. And so it's a matter of having those conversations and also finding out what's important to people. Because it's not just a matter of us saying this is what, we're all about and talking at them. It's all a matter of also hearing what's important to them, and then that opens up a whole conversation.
Right. And I suppose after doing that and listening to that many people, you do start to really get a sense of what's on the public mind. Like it informs you better when you go to, say, debate things with other politicians? You're learning from people.
Absolutely. I have a much better pulse of the community now than I ever have before. And for me, it's about going out to where people are, not always asking them to come to me. And when you're at someone's business or you're at their doorstep, you can have a really open and honest conversation. And so it's been a really great way to hear what's going on in people's lives, what's going on in their businesses, and hear what's important to them.
Right. So the extent to which I know you, you don't sort of strike me as the prototypical conservative type, but you're very business-minded. Is that what attracts you to representing the Conservatives?
Well, I spent a lot of time considering going in this direction, and for me it was all about looking at the founding principles and the policies, because everything flows from that. It's sort of like business when you have your mission statement and your vision and then your strategies. It's very similar with political parties. You've got your core principles and then your policies, and so I really wanted to make sure that they were in alignment with my beliefs, and a lot of it does come to having personal freedoms is a big one, and also being able to support business, the philosophies that can support small business. Because of course I'm an entrepreneur, still involved in business, and of course here in Kelowna-Lake Country, the heartbeat of our community is small business. So right. That's what a lot of our industry is.
Right, so there's interesting things going on right now in federal politics where, nationwide, April saw more jobs added in 1 month since 1976. And under this Liberal government, 1 million jobs added since 2015. So some pretty positive economic indicators. But at the same time, it seems like the electorate's kind of tired of the Liberals. The Conservatives do lead in the polls. So what do you make of all of that?
Well, I think any time that you look at statistics that come out, you have to look at it holistically. Where are the trends? What do they really mean? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Are they government-created jobs? Are they private sector? Are they public sector? Of course, with all of the jobs that we heard that were just created, they're not all private sector jobs. So you have to kind of disseminate that and see if it's a trend or if it's sort of just a point in time. And so we'll really have to see how this plays out, but you also have to look at how many jobs were lost at different times, and is this a recouping of that? So there'll be a lot of analysis, I'm sure, done here over the next few months.
Right. And speaking of analysis, what do you make of what happened here in 2015? My employer at the time, CTV, was asking me, so what do you see happening? And I said, this is a Conservative riding, send me somewhere else because, the Liberals just don't win here. And then Stephen Fuhr won. So what do you make of that, and how does it factor into how you would campaign this time around?
Well, I think at that time in 2015, there were statements that were being made by the different parties that resonated with people more than others. People were looking at the leadership of the party, and there seemed to be a lot of people that weren't resonating with Stephen Harper anymore, and so it sounds like people wanted a change. I heard over and over where people said, "Oh, I really like Ron Cannon, but I'm going to go this direction." And so there's a lot of factors that play into why people would vote one way or another. And but I think it's different now because people have seen the current Justin Trudeau government and have seen how the policies have affected their lives, and the promises that were made that weren't kept. And so people are looking at that right now quite seriously and seeing, really deciding how they're going to be voting in this election.
So are we likely to see yourself and MP Stephen Fuhr debating the issues together during the campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a number of debates that are planned by different organizations in Kelowna-Lake Country, and I've already heard from some of them that they plan on doing that again this year, so I absolutely look forward to that.
So I know you do well meeting people on the doorstep. Do you feel confident about debating head-to-head with a sitting MP on the issues? Do you think you'll do well there?
I'm looking forward to it, and of course we have to remember that I was a city councillor as well that sat through a lot of really rigorous public hearings, and I'm not a stranger to publicly speaking, so I'm absolutely looking forward to that.
Yeah, and this whole political milieu where you're out there working and you've got this opponent, like even in the nomination process, whose real sworn duty is to be as critical of you as possible, and of course that's even more intense during a general election. Is that tough to bear, knowing that there's a whole team of people that are just sort of working against you like that? Is it
Well,
tough?
it's part of it. It's part of politics, and you know, I've always sort of forged my own path and gone in my own direction. And you have your own plan and you stick to it, and it's a matter of just rising above,
Right.
rising above that.
And you know, you're going to obviously, while you're campaigning, you're going to be talking a little bit about why people might want to sideline the Liberals for now, but also about what you want to do. There's a bit of a breakdown between being critical of your opponent and talking about the alternative you offer. I don't know, break it down. Is it 50-50 or the amount of time spent on those two sides of it?
Well, I think it's a matter of, again, hearing what's important to people. And so how are the current policies going to affect people's lives? And also, how important is it to them to have somebody that they can reach out to? Some people, you know, don't necessarily want to meet with their local representative. They just want to know what taxes they're paying at the end of the year, and how much the cost of living is going to be, and how policies are going to affect their business. Other people want to have a relationship with their current representative and want to be reaching out to them and knowing that they can connect with them and tell them what's important to them. So for every person, it's different, and it's just a matter of being available for, you know, for people and being accessible to them.
Is there one policy issue that sort of goes to the top in terms of what people are talking to you about?
I would say the largest one that I hear most often has to do with taxation, and especially with taxation for small businesses in the way of taking away income splitting is the big one that I hear about the most often, and also the tax-free savings account has been reduced, and then also just with business being able to have stability and being able to compete. Those are sort of the big ones that I hear most often, which is one of the reasons why I decided to run. But then there's a whole number of factors that I keep hearing more often having to do with immigration, with people wanting secure borders and wanting to make sure that we have a fair and orderly and compassionate immigration system. You know, with people being able to trust their government, you know, that they're making good decisions and trust what they're saying. So there's a lot of new issues that are coming forth, more so than just the taxation, but I would say that that's probably the biggest one because it affects people's day-to-day lives the most.
Right. Well, thanks for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you so
Tracy
much,
Gray,
Ken.
the candidate for the Conservatives in the upcoming federal election. And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.